Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scottish Goddess Conference 2023, Oracles of the Divine. Today we have the greatest pleasure to have with us someone very special from here, from Scotland. She's Gaye Macdonald, and she's a Highland seer. I'm going to read a little bit about her. A true heiress of the Scottish second sight tradition by blood. She is the daughter of famous Highland seers Swing and Isobel Macdonald. She brings to our conference the legacy of this tradition of her family, her experience, and the gift of being able to learn firsthand more about this clan of Highland visionaries. Gaye considers herself kind of a hedge witch. She meets up often with other witches in Inverness for full moon rituals. She is also a Reiki master and teacher, healer, psychic, medium. She is a certified counselor, and she is going for a BACP in counseling as well. She is part of the James support group, Survivors After Suicide, and has worked in productions. She lives in the Scottish Highlands with her husband when she receives anyone that looks for her for a bit of magic and guidance. So, welcome. Thank you so much for taking my invitation to participate. I could not organize a conference about oracles of the divine and not have someone talking and sharing about Scottish second sight when it's such a special thing. So I would like to ask you, what is second sight? What is Scottish second sight?
Scottish second sight is based in fairy tales and all the big stories and folklore that's around. Second sight is second sight no matter where you are in the world. It's what we see is maybe visions, or we hear names, or myself personally, it's like a TV. You can see things like pictures moving, or a photograph or something in your head, in your mind's eye, whichever you like to call it. And that's more or less what everybody else sees. Some people smell things, which I do too, like perfume, flowers, whatever. But there's a lot of people with second sight. And in the Scottish Highlands, it is scary stuff. It's spooky stuff. It's the work of the devil, because people don't understand. And you and I both know it's not the work of the devil. The devil has got nothing to do with it whatsoever. Whatever.
Yeah, is this what is the work of the spirits?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the work of the spirits.
People that don't understand have got to make it scary and spooky and whatever, and you're like, really? It's just everyday life. You know, you pick up things all the time.
Yeah, and this is, for you, it has been, this has been part of your life, like since
Always.
the beginning, being who you are. Could you tell us a bit more about your parents, and who were your parents?
My parents, I'll start at the beginning. Both of them grew up with second sight. Both of them got thumped, slapped, whatever, when they mentioned strange things, that so-and-so was dead, or they saw somebody getting run over by a truck or something like that, because their parents didn't understand. And in small communities like up here at that time, you were strange. You couldn't say things like that. You didn't want to be classed with people like that weren't right in the head and everything. So they grew up keeping it quiet. They didn't. I don't think even my mum's best friends knew that she saw or heard things or experienced things. So it's a lonely world. It's very lonely out there, and especially when you're a child and you're trying to make sense of what you're seeing and feeling and whatever. And in those days, way back in the 1920s and 30s when they were growing up. It's just not real, not normal. You can't associate with people that say things like that. So they had a hard life growing up to that extent. My mum and my dad met when my mother worked in a hotel way in the Highlands, in the hills, and away from everybody, miles to get to it. My dad was 10 years younger than my mum, so she was a bit older. She was married and had a very horrible marriage at that time. But then what wasn't a horrible marriage in those days when you were told to do what you were told and be the wife and not have a word to say about yourself? So they ran away. They eloped. And ran down to Glasgow on the back of my dad's motorbike. No, not Glasgow. It's Peebles. And my mum's brother was working down there, so they managed to get a cottage. Long story short, a few years later, I was born, and we moved to Peebles. You weren't allowed to talk about second sight. That was still very much a no-no. If any meetings or anything was going on in those days, it was done in private houses because it was illegal. You didn't want to talk about it. You couldn't talk about it. And even as I was growing up, when I was about 7 or 8, I remember that I wasn't allowed to tell my friends where I was going. We were meeting up with people in Bearsden, and they were having a gathering of people in the house. So even then, I realised that you just didn't talk about it. Gradually, my mum and dad worked their way to the Spiritualist Church in Glasgow. I'm sorry, I can't remember whereabout in Glasgow it was, or the lovely lady that took it. But that, again, was done once everybody came in, the doors were locked, the shutters were put down, curtains were shut, everything. So you couldn't, nobody could eavesdrop or listen in. And that was interesting because I grew up, I used to fall asleep in the spiritual meetings, but it's a different way of life, and to find out who your friends are that can put up with the strange things. That's about it at the moment. There you are. You disappeared and came back again.
Obviously, I think that the next question will be, because your parents became very, very, very popular.
Yeah.
And they both had the gift. I know your dad was kind of the one that became a bit more known in a way.
When they were in Glasgow, when we were living in Glasgow, and they would go to their psychic meetings in Paisley, Aberdeen, all over the place. We'd travel by car or train. And my mum, she was a full-time nurse, so she couldn't be there all the time. Yeah. But when they were on platform, they were usually on platform together, and their stage name, if you like to call it, was the Highland Seers.
Yeah.
So my dad had an accident on the work site and had a brain injury and couldn't work. So we left Glasgow and moved up to my dad's family home and moved in there. No running water, just electricity, steel roof in the house, very, very basic. No toilets, nothing. It was a shock to the system. No TV, nothing like that whatsoever. So once my dad sort of settled into his injury, if that makes any sense, because he wasn't going to get better from it. He had tunnel vision, no sense of smell, no taste. His balance was completely off. So he walked everywhere with a stick, which actually looked quite good in years to come because he was walking with a staff, and they had that image of straight away the Highlander. So and my mum, she couldn't participate in the psychic stuff as much because she was now running a house, looking after me and my brother. We had a croft by that time, sheep. She just didn't have the time. And then being the nurse to my dad, she didn't want to come back up here. She wanted to stay in Glasgow. So all of that was a shock to her system too.
Yeah.
But he became the Highland Seer. That was his name then. And people would come to the house.
Yeah. It's hard for women, especially with their children, and we kind of we're pushed to remain in the background because how
very
busy.
Much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you see, being the daughter of two seers, all these and yourself having having this second side yourself, but how was it for you to see, all these people coming to your parents, and how did you leave this?
I didn't understand. I got married at 16 to my first husband and moved out and had twins when I was 18. And we'd moved to a village, probably about half an hour away, 40 minutes away from mum and dad's. So I didn't actually see the people coming to the house unless we were visiting with the twins to see my mum and dad. And I couldn't understand why all these people, they always had people there and whatever. It took me, I was a bit slow in the uptake, but then suddenly I realised, they're coming to my dad's for readings. And then you just don't want to be in amongst them because you feel you're intruding. But, there was a woman who was sitting one day and she was enthusing about my dad. My mother's never forgiven me for this, by the way. And she was, oh, he's wonderful. He's such a wonderful man. And he's so full of goodness. And, oh, I come to him every time I have issues. What does it feel like being his daughter? And I went, well, he's my dad. He's got skid marks in his pants like everybody else. And my mum was livid. She said, you could have said something a lot nicer than that. I went, why? He's my dad. Sorry.
No, it's hard when you're blood related and so you're so close. It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And if you could look back to those years, okay, can you make a list of things that help you, things that you learn from your parents regarding this gift that help you later on?
Listening to the old stories, and then once the twins were born, we moved to where I am in our Gaye now, but not this house. And so there would have been about 4. We moved back home. I moved back home when they were about 4 and started to get strange things happening to me. I'd always had strange things, but I just used to go, yeah, you were sleeping, that was your imagination, don't be so silly. The film you were watching last night or whatever. But I would get wakened up with visions is the only thing I can say. And I would phone up my mum. I know she was only down the road, but it was easier and quicker to just, rather than take the kids and whatever, walk down the road, I'd phone up my mum, go, Mum, I had this experience last night. And she would, what did it look like? Who did it look like? Did it say anything? How did you feel? And I would tell her all these things. So she would just say, oh, well, if it's something that neither the two of us could pinpoint, like a face, what did it look like? Was it female, dark hair, whatever? And eventually things like that would click into place, like, oh, it was my auntie that had come back and this sort of thing. So it was nice having my mum and dad there to bounce things off. But then I no sooner started to experience things properly when my mum and dad split up. My mum was going through cancer, major cancer operation at the time. She moved out of the house into the shed, a big farm shed that we had, and then my dad came up and my mum went to live with my sister. It was horrible at the time, but then what relationship with divorce and whatever in it is nice. My dad moved up here with his girlfriend and produced a son just after that. So I didn't have them for there then. I had to more or less stand on my own 2 feet. So I have a very good friend I used to bounce things off, still do, and who understood because she herself has got that sort of way. And it's a lonely life having second sight because not everybody gets it. And if they've not got it the same way you're getting it, it could be difficult to explain to what you're seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling, even tasting. Now I don't
Okay.
care. Now it's just like, it's part of my life. I just get on with it. If I hear somebody saying something in my ear, I'll tell Fraser about it. I'll tell my pal about it. But it's a lonely life, and it must have been very lonely for my mum and dad that they couldn't. Whereas we're enthralled with it now, and every second person you meet has got second sight, allegedly.
Yeah.
But and I don't believe it's hereditary. I do not believe, even though my mum and dad were psychic, I don't believe so. I believe that it's in each and every one of us. It's just some people are more open to it and want to be involved in it. Because I know when my life has calmed down and things are going well, I feel a lot more aware and experience a lot more, whether it be dreams or hearing or seeing things or having visions, whatever you like to call it. But yeah, I'll enjoy
It's
it.
it's hard to connect when you have a busy life and things are happening. You cannot be a spiritual 24/7. You
No,
cannot be plugged
no,
24/7.
no.
We are, our awareness is kind of taken away from us because of everything else happening.
Yeah,
And I do understand what you say about when things are settled and there is balance, and then you plug, you just plug back.
that's
And
right. Yeah.
so what would you say that are the signs for second sight? So if someone young was experiencing some things, and what will make you say to the person, you got the gift of the second sight?
If someone started telling me, "Oh, I thought about this person," and they phoned, and I was saying, "Oh, I was thinking about you," and phoned, which happens to me quite regular, and Fraser. Both of us are friends. Also, I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking about you, so I thought I'd phone you. Just that sort of thing. And then if they were like, just try to think of somebody recently that's come to me and said things. Yeah, last year I know she experienced somebody standing in her room. She was terrified, absolutely terrified. And my house is haunted, and the horror films and everything else was coming into her head. And I was like, right, what was it? Was it male or was it female? It was a shadow. It was a shadow. I couldn't make it out. What was it? Was it a male or a female shadow? Think about it. Look at it. And she was like, oh, right, right, right. Oh, it was female. Yes, it was female. And did they do anything? No, they just stood there. So they didn't scare you. You scared yourself. And she was like, well, I suppose so. But yeah, you don't like waking up in your bedroom and seeing somebody standing there. I says, well, she's probably needing for you. This is what I was tapping into. I says, she's tapping into you, that she's there for you. The lassie had gone through a horrible separation with her partner and left where she lived and had moved up to the Highlands, away miles from where she lived. And I said, she's there for you. It's her house you're in. She's not there to scare you. She's there for you, to be with you. And then she'd sort of phone me or text me later on in the week and say, oh, I was in the kitchen and something moved. And when I came in, there was something moved. I said, she's telling you she's there. I says, it's not a poltergeist that's going to come out of the cupboard and scare you half to death. She's letting you know she's there. So now she lives in that house, absolutely fine, and she's got a name, and the woman that's there, I can't remember what it is now, but she's, oh, you'll never guess what she did last night, and she's quite with it now.
Okay.
Anybody that comes and says, oh, I've experienced this, that, or the other, I like to get them to calm down and say, what did you feel? Yes, there can be horrible things out there, but I don't believe that you pass on in life and become a better person. If you were horrible in this life, you're still the same when you go over there until you're healed, or whatever it is people like to call it out there.
Yeah.
So,
and you mentioned that Scottish second sight is very much in relation also to the folklore. Yeah, and obviously the fairies.
Yes.
In the Highlands, the fairies are very important in the folklore.
Oh,
So
yes.
will this be something like, have you heard, the fate messages from the fairies? Do you know someone that says, uh, the fairies gave me this message? Or
This
have you
is
been in
when
touch with the supernatural beings in the
this
land?
is where this is where your street cred gets wiped out completely when you start saying things like, "Oh, I believe in the Fae. I've seen the Fae. I've done this, and it's involving the Fae, and I leave offerings to the Fae, and I won't have anything to do with bits of metal over in that bit because it interferes with the Fae." People look at you, so you're mad. But what I believe is, well, I will put this right: the universe is massive. There must be life out there somewhere. There is life on this planet. Half of it we don't know yet. Half of it we don't understand. How many people every day you read things about there's more believers in the spiritual life now. There's more believers in life after death. There's more and more believers about psychic happenings and psychic things that have happened to them and everything else. I do believe we are getting more enlightened as we get older. The horror films and the scary things that's put on TV, that doesn't help. It just doesn't. But yeah, I do. I believe in the Fae. Yes, I've seen the Fae. I will come out there and say I've seen the Fae. I have experienced the Fae and other things that are not of this planet. So, it's like, oh, now there'll be immediately somebody going, "Oh my God, she speaks to aliens now." And yeah,
When you're a breach and you are a channel for the spirit, I think it's very silly to think that the only spirit there is human,
correct.
you know?
Yeah.
And yes, we can speak to the ancestors, we can even go to past lives and see stuff, because I'm able to tap into past lives, not only my own life, but other people's, because I'm a, I'm a, wall walker, I walk in between realities since I'm a little girl. But to limit this spiritual experience to humans is putting in a box something that has no box.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it's the fae out there, but also, giants, not only fae, but many different beings out there.
Yes, look at you don't even have to go to foreign countries. There's, the paintings in caves and of these beings that were huge and tall and glowing. But
Yeah.
now we see what our people wear when they go into space, and they have big heads with all these machinery and things that's around them. And yeah, I believe that we're quite far behind other races that are out there. I do believe that.
Yeah.
And I think if people have got what I call the mentality of the medium spiritualist that you go to see who brings your granny back to you. "Oh, I can see your granny standing in the kitchen." This is my favourite one. "She's making shortbread and she's got a penny on." Yes. Didn't everybody's granny make shortbread and wear a penny apron, whatever you like to call it? So when anybody brings that to me, it's like, no, I'm not going to take that as proof. I need more than that. I need names. I need something.
Yeah. Yeah. But as it's, I think, in the Highlands, and the fae are very important.
Mm.
And obviously, if you have second sight in the Highlands, your experience is not going to be limited just to human relationships.
No, the areas are old. It's old areas.
Yeah.
We've had wolves, we've had bears, we've had everything walking this areas and the ice age and whatever. It's all been around here as well.
Yeah.
The whole world was part of the ice age.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things that we don't know yet and we haven't discovered. And there's caves somewhere. There's bound to be things that people haven't discovered, especially up here.
Yeah. No, I think there is a lot. Like I was reading recently, they discovered something else in the island of Aran. But I think it's so much to discover up here. Like
Yeah,
everyone, talks about Stone Age all the time.
yeah.
Or
But when you
everybody.
Yeah,
But
Inverness, not only Inverness, but Inverness, Clavicairns, the
yeah,
standing stones. We've got standing stones in Edgerton. We've got standing stones all over the Highlands and
yeah,
Brochs and in those areas, people will say things like, "Oh, it's spooky." It's not spooky. You're picking up on what was there. It's the energy that's been left behind that is still there. It's not gone
yeah.
away just because they've all died off, because the energy is there.
I know.
And if you ever come up to the Highlands, we'll take you to the Club of Cairns. It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Yeah, because I was there some time ago, but I didn't know of the Club of Cairns, so I didn't visit. So I am looking forward to go back. But I'm thinking, what is if you had to say, what is the struggle when you have the second sight?
The struggle is very much people don't believe you. People don't understand you. People don't get you. Very few people really get you. So there again, you're back to the lone thinking, the lone person. It's a struggle, and it's a struggle in the modern life of trying to keep in touch with your feelings and what you're experiencing, because even though we talk about it, you still have a busy life. You work, you've got kids, you've got grandkids. If you've not got that, you've got a job, you've got illness, and everything else is taken into. And you only have 24 hours in a day. And the older you get, the quicker it disappears.
Yeah,
So, I'm now 65, and it's like, where did the day go? Well, what have I done? I was at work and I came home and I was like, oh, it's bedtime. Yeah,
yeah. I think what you mentioned is very it's quite important because it's true that especially for people like us that are like highly sensitive to the spirit world, this world we live now is overwhelming.
very, very, very. You do have to shut yourself down. You can,
Yeah,
you can, you can experience. If I go for a walk in Inverness to go to the shops or whatever I'm going to go and do, I really feel I have to shut down, because I will experience and feel emotions of people walking past, and I'll experience things, and I'll get oh, I, no, I can't just walk up to somebody and say, your Uncle Fred has just said, don't do it, or don't do this, or whatever. You can't. It's infringing on their rights, and truthfully, you'd scare the bejesus out of them.
I
Very much, yeah.
yeah. But it's true. This is very difficult to have a second side of visions. Because I come from a family of visioners as well. My grandma had the visions. My mom had the visions. My uncle, he can smell them too, and feels them. And
Yeah.
so we don't call it second sight in Spain,
What do you
but
call it?
we are a family of visionaries, and it's I think it's overwhelming, oh, the way,
Yes.
the speed we live, everything is so fast. We need to do things very fast all the time, and to be able to plug to your senses, you need to be in this liminal time,
Yeah.
this liminal space. uh, and so when do you connect? Do you do it now? Do you for clients that come to you? Do you do it in meetings? Do you do it for yourself?
We, Fraser and I, both will sit and meditate and do things ourselves. That's one thing that we both do. We take time out. If we have friends that come to the house, or people that come to the house for readings, messages, whatever, we will give our all and give a message, that whatever. As you know yourself, you can't just say, somebody comes in and say, well, I want to hear from my Auntie May and I need a message from her. It doesn't happen like that. It's somebody else will come through for whatever reason, we don't know. If I'm doing Reiki, I can experience stuff, but I will not do it when I'm doing Reiki. I will not pass on the message. I will speak to the person afterwards and find out where they lie. Because if it's something that would scare them, as in, although I don't believe in that stuff, but I do believe in Reiki, or I do believe in acupuncture, or I do believe in whatever. You really have to be careful what you say and who you say it to.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because first of all, not everyone is ready to listen.
No.
And sometimes the messages are not easy to listen to.
Yeah.
And as you say, we need to be careful, because we can scare the person, and that's not what we want. We want to really help the person.
No. And anybody ever goes for a reading or a meeting with people and come out of there terrified, that person that they went to see is totally wrong.
Yeah.
I know of a lassie who has got an absolutely amazing connections with spirit, and she takes great delight in scaring folk out of their wits, which is totally wrong and goes against everything that I believe in. She charges good money, so she gets good money, and people will come back, and of course people will pass that on, but she's doing it wrong as far as I'm concerned. In my book, it's wrong.
Okay. And you said in my book, when are we going to read a book by you?
I've been saying it since I was 16, I'm going to write a book. I'm 65. No, it hasn't happened. It might happen. I jot down things now and again. Going through, my life changed dramatically when I was 60. My 60th birthday, which was 5 years ago, I said to my family, I says, right, that's it. I've had enough of everybody. Now I'm concentrating. I'm going back into Spiritualist Church. I'm going to go back and be involved in everything that I want to do and read and all the stuff that I've missed out on with work and grandkids and kids and family issues. And within months of my 60th birthday, my late husband killed himself. My son-in-law had died suddenly without any warning. And in the whole 5 years up to this point, it's just been one thing after another. And you do get days you think, what's it all about? Why me? Why me? Why not me? Because I'm going to get it the same as everybody else does.
Yeah.
It's given me a better understanding of people, to what they've gone through, because before we experienced suicide in our family, I always used to go, oh, shame, that's a shame, isn't it? Oh dear, it's a shame. Not thinking, not understanding the mess that is left behind, that the families have to deal with, what we've watched our grandchildren struggle with. And it's not a nice place to be, but now I understand how those families are, and I go to James's support group, and they are lovely people, and the people that are there, they understand when we come out of things. And there's a lassie I'm friendly with who's just recently got into a relationship. Her husband, he killed himself, and it's so you're not with us. Our group is wonderful, but people outside thinking, oh right, oh, you've suddenly got over him. Then you're going to get married and you're going to move on with life. No, life moves on whether you go with it or not. So you can become an ambassador of the group, because you understand and you start sensing and feeling things now. At my place of work, we now have got a donation tin, and I have cards and things, and I've always got cards and books and things in my bag, because in the Highlands, especially just now, we have an outcrying of so many people that have killed themselves, nearly all men, not all men, young men. And why? What's we can say, oh, it's where they live, it's drugs, it's the family life and all that, but it's still there, and it needs to be sorted everywhere. And it's and once once you have suicide in your family, you suddenly see it everywhere. But it's like mental health. You have mental health in your family, you suddenly see it. And there is not enough money in the world to help mental health, suicide, cancer, everything, all the things that each and every family has experienced somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
And especially, after COVID and everything, it's been a very, very hard time for a lot of people.
That was horrid, absolutely horrid. Thankfully, I still had to go to work. I was in Inverness working at the time, and but I was leaving my house and driving to Inverness, an hour's journey, and not meeting one vehicle on the road. It was like something out of a film. It was like, my God, am I the only person left in the world?
I say this to people.
That's right.
We are living in Mad Max now.
Correct. Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
And my daughter is across in Bonar, which is only 3 miles away. And I was going to hers, dropping stuff off at the gate and seeing my grandchildren and crying all the way home. Yeah. And I'm not exactly a fluffy, lovey granny, but they're my grandchildren and I wasn't getting to see them, or my daughter. And she was a single mum on her own, so she was struggling. Yeah. I was like, dear God,
No, it's been really bad. But I think what you say, sometimes we have the gifts, but we need the life experience to make us, to help us to handle, to put our gifts better to the service.
Yes.
And when you have a gift, it's all about scars, so you can gain the empathy and the experience to connect with other people.
Correct.
And yeah, life is not easy and it's tough, and especially when you have this sensitivity and the gift. But the only good outcome I take from all my painful experiences and everything is that I am a better healer. I'm a better healer, and I can help better.
Yes.
From that experience. So
you can relate. Yes.
Yeah.
We can all be the mouth the words, but until it actually happens to you or your family, you do not know what they're going through.
No,
whatever it is. Yeah.
You don't know. And that's why I say you're totally right there. Like, you say, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then life puts you into different experiences for you to grow.
Correct.
And
Fraser,
and you can decide to stay down the bottom of the abyss, or you can, as you said, you can continue walking after the trauma, after everything, and have a different insight and strength,
Very much that for the psychology and counselling thing comes in there as well. I truthfully do not see me managing to do the BACP this year or any other year, because it's 3 years it's kind of come out of my life to do it. But I have my COSCA certificate, which is good and it helps. And part of being a counsellor is being empathic to people and listening. And that's what we do. We spend our lives listening, and we can't help people, but we can understand them. They have to help themselves. But if we are prepared to listen to them, or for them to bounce stuff off us, that's it. Because you can't help somebody by saying, oh, don't do this and do that and do the next thing, because that's not the way they're wanting to go. And their life is their life, not ours.
Yeah. And you say maybe a book, you've been wanting to write a book, maybe you need to find the time for that book.
It might happen.
It might happen. But what about teaching? Have you been thinking about doing workshops and teaching about the Scottish second side and the folklore and is that something you might think?
Well, at the bottom of the road, bottom of the road where I live, I have my house sign, and underneath it, I have holistic retreat.
Oh,
Since the day that sign went down there, I do want to have a holistic retreat. And I don't want to have a place that is priced out of the market, that you're going to spend 2 weekends living on two days living on vegetables and water. I'm going to charge you £1,000 a weekend. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I want to have normal, everyday experience with normal, everyday people, whether they be spiritual, whether needing help with their mental health. Not that I'm an expert in any shape or form, but where I live, I love where I live. I am so lucky. I thank God every day for that. This is a family home. It was my uncle's family that lived here, and I don't want to leave here for any reason other than ill health, old age. It might happen. I might die here happily. But I live in the country. I'm surrounded by my pets, my dogs. My dog, now we're down to one dog. 3 cats, cockatiels, geese, ducks, goat, ponies. So we have a good selection of animals that we've rescued and bought, and I find 5 and come home with 9 and stuff like that. But
so if anyone wants to learn about Scottish second sight, so we can count on maybe having a trip to the Highlands to
definitely, absolutely,
to visit
definitely,
you and learning from
yes,
an heiress of the second sight.
absolutely.
That's
2
good.
for the price of 1. My husband as well.
Well, I would like to thank you for for this opportunity to get to meet you.
Well, thank you for the 6 o'clock message in the morning when I was getting ready for work that I got from you. What was that? Last year? I think it was. Was it this year? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was last year. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, who is this mad person? And then I got to know you and went, yeah, she's not mad, she's normal, just like me.
Yeah, but as I said, for me it was very, the oracles of the divine is about, this conference this year is about to be an oracle, any sort of oracle that the divine forces or the spirit use to bring their messages to this other reality, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I live in Scotland. I know about Scottish second sight. I would really love this woman to participate in this conference. It's like I will, I wanted someone special to talk about this. And who better than you?
Thank you.
No one better than you. So
there's a lot more out there and a lot more people with a lot more years of experience than me. But thank you for those kind words. It's extremely nice of you.
But, for me it was important because in a way, the conference this year is now happening in Showen. I was planning to move the dates anyway for the future. It's moving sooner, but that's fine. But in a way, talking about second sight and your experience is another way to honor your ancestors and to honor where you come from.
Exactly.
And especially
I
now,
don't hide it.
Yeah. And this is now happening in showing and what a better way to honor who you are and where you come from.
True.
Than sharing about, a little bit about your parents and their experience and your own experience.
I've got loads of stories I could tell, but it would take hours and hours and hours.
Can you pick 2? One from your mom and one from your dad?
I'll pick one from a mum that has nothing to do with second sight, but it gives you an insight of people's imagination.
Okay.
my mum's dad was a gamekeeper, and he used to go out and check his snares at all different times of the day and night. And he was coming home with 2 rabbits that he'd picked up off the snares, and he thought he'd take a shortcut through the church, which was very much frowned on anyway, but it was dark and it was night time, so he thought he'd do it. My mother heard this conversation when she was sitting at the breakfast table. So he was saying to her mum, Ina, and he was saying, "Oh, Ina, what a fright I got last night." And she says, "Why, what was that?" He says, "Well, I decided to take a shortcut through the church." And of course, Granny being Granny was like, "That's terrible, terrible." And he says, "Yep." So he says, it was a big steep wall that he had to climb over. So he put one rabbit over, and he heard this, "Oh." He was like, "All right." So he put the next rabbit over, and he heard, "Oh," again. So by this time, he said the hair was standing up in the back of his neck, and it was dark. And he was like, "Oh my God, what the hell is over there?" So he says, "I'm committed now, so I'll just have to do it." So as he hauled himself over the wall, the local donkey was lying there looking at him as if to say, "What are you doing?" So if he'd ran away and not continued to climb over that wall, he'd have told everybody, no doubt, that there was something in those walls, there was something behind there. So that's how imagination runs away.
Yeah.
My dad's story is a true story. Where my dad lived with his mother just a couple of miles from here, and he was down playing in the burn, and he came back up to his mum and he went, I won't say any names, Jock Smith is a made-up name. He says, "Jock Smith's dead. There's a tree on top of him." And my granny was going, "Oh, for goodness sake, Sween, stop telling lies. You're going to get yourself into trouble and whatever." Next day, he came home from school, and Granny, she probably was a believer looking back now. She never hit him or anything like that. She would just tell him to be quiet about those things. And she said, "How did you know Jock Smith was dead?" He says, "Because I saw it happen." Now, he was only about 7 or 8, and he saw the tree land on top of Jock Smith, and Jock Smith was killed. He was a forester, and they had been searching for him all night and eventually found him. So,
Okay.
nowhere near where my dad and Granny lived. So, if you're wanting to say, well, he must have heard or seen or something, no, he was nowhere near, and he was not connected to them, nothing. So, those are the stories. And my mother had loads of stories that she would see and hear and experience. So, although everybody thinks of my dad as the Highland seer, I like to end with this. They were the Highland seers. There was 2 of them, and one was very much as good as the other on stage and as people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's a very good point to finish this interview, honoring both of them.
Yes.
Because you carry both of them in your blood
Oh,
and
yes.
bones, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I think it's important to honor also the women, the wives that sometimes are overlooked because they're more busy.
Yeah, exactly. My mum's granny, she had 2 grannies that were alive during her childhood. One of them, she used to do readings, scrying. She would get eggs from the people, and she would break an egg open, and it was the whites of the eggs, to put that into water, and she would read the eggs. So there's all different ways to scry. I mean, there's another thing, scrying, tea leaves.
Yeah.
Bones in countries, and tarot cards, and I can never remember what these ones are called. The little tiles. No, can't remember. But there's loads of different ways for readings.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you don't injure somebody, animal, human, or upset anybody, there's no wrong way of doing it. If you're doing it for the good, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do it from the heart with no intention to harm,
correct.
There's no wrong.
None.
Even if you are not an expert, even if you are not. That's something I always say to my students. If you do it from the heart and you do it from good, it's fine. Whatever you do is fine. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. And I'm definitely coming to the Highlands at one point,
Good.
and I let you know.
Thank you.